All right, so the first topic is why SEO, or why search engine optimization. In my opinion, search engine optimization is probably one of the most valuable skills you can learn as a web developer. This knowledge will not only help you raise your rates, but it'll also help you become more valuable to your clients or your employer as well. You'll be able to, create projects that are way more likely to rank higher on search engines because they'll have a sound structure and they'll have a good basis that you can build on top of when it comes to, maybe even introducing SEO in the future. I was able to increase my rates significantly since I started offering SEO services. And, you know, I'm not even talking about SEO monthly plans, which are even more lucrative. I'm talking about creating websites that are going to have a good basis, that are going to perform well, and that are going to be more search engine friendly off the bat. So as soon as you create a good basis and you add some of those features that search engines love to see, and when you're creating a website, um, it'll be much easier to rank in the future as you start adding more SEO features. Our SEO plans that we started offering recently are probably our fastest growing service that we offer today as a company. And our SEO plans start from $2,000 a month and go up to $10,000 a month. So you don't need too many clients in order to hit that 5-figure mark when you're offering higher tiered services. So it's super useful, especially if you're a freelancer, if you're an agency owner. Offering SEO services, I think, in my opinion, is a must. But again, even if you're an employee, or if you just want to learn how to create SEO friendly websites, this is a great course. It's going to give you a lot of those skills, and that are going to put you ahead of the pack. SEO is a vast industry, so there's a lot of subspecialties within it. You can do technical SEO that I cover in this course. You can do off-page SEO or content promotion, things like that. There's a lot of different subspecialties that you can specialize when it comes to SEO. So it's a vast industry, but it's also super fun to learn. So I think for me, it's been one of the most fun and challenging things to learn as a web developer. There are many different approaches when it comes to growing traffic and growing with SEO. I'm going to show you some of them. It's a combination of what we call on-page and off-page SEO strategies and tactics. But you can use a combination of these. You can use. There are many proven strategies that work. So you can use a combination. But I'm going to teach you some very sound strategies that are proven to work and that are going to give you great results. So just to summarize, some of the key takeaways of why SEO. Learning SEO will make you way more valuable to clients or your employer if you're working somewhere. You can easily increase your revenue to 5 figures a month as a freelancer. Like I said, these, especially if you're offering SEO plans, monthly plans, these are high tiered services, so you don't need a lot of clients in order to hit that 5-figure mark. You also, as soon as you learn and implement the service, all of a sudden, like any new project that you offer to clients, you can add this skill as a value add to what you're already offering. So, if you're offering just a website, a simple website to clients versus offering SEO optimized website that's going to do great with search engines, your value goes up to that client. So it's much easier to sell your services and to be perceived as more valuable when you learn this skill. And again, it's super fun. It can also help you promote your own services or your own website. It's vast. There's a lot to learn. So, and there's a lot of very technical things if you're into that. And I'm assuming you are as a web developer. You can really kind of geek out when it comes to SEO and learning how to apply some of these techniques and strategies. So I hope that's helped you understand why SEO and why SEO is so lucrative. And now we're going to jump into some more technical things that'll help you implement some of these strategies and learn a little bit more about them. Thanks. So our next topic is setting up your website structure and measuring your SEO efforts. This is one of those things that I learned a little bit later that I wish I learned ahead of time and implemented or started implementing way earlier. Website structure is very important for search engines like Google. A good website structure will help Google understand your website way better and understand what your website is about. So, in the world of SEO, content is very important when it comes to websites. So you need a lot of content in order to rank highly on search engines like Google. Creating a good and sound structure gives you the ability, or gives the search engines the ability to really understand what your website is about, or give it an easier time understanding what your website is about. So always when you're starting a new website project, the first thing what I would do when I'm starting is create a good and sound structure. It's probably, if you take away anything from this course, I would say, take that away and look to implement it. So I'll show you an example. So as I go through this course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my own Clio websites as an example. I've set it up so that I can show you some of these things, and I'll give you sort of all of the knowledge that I've learned and the strategies that I'm using in order to, improve the ranking of this website. So the first thing when it comes to structure, you don't have to use a tool. You can use a piece of paper. It's totally fine. But map it out and create your hierarchy. This will help you not only have a picture in mind of what you want your website to look like, but it'll also help, like I said, search engines understand your content better, or understand what your website is about. And it'll also give you opportunities to apply some good interlinking strategies between these different pages to help you increase your rankings. So, I'm using a tool to do this. You can use a piece of paper, but it's very critical to plan this out first. It's going to be very tough trying to rank a website that's, for example, has like one page, unless it's something that's not competitive at all, and you can rank easily. But if it's something more complex or something a little bit more competitive when it comes to, depending on your niche, you need to have a sound structure so that you can help search engines understand what your website is about. So you can see, for example, I have my homepage, I have services, I have case studies, contact, about, blog, and then I have all of these kind of services underneath, my service page that explain to Google, what my web design company is about. Here are the services. I offer web design, I offer SEO, I offer WordPress development and website maintenance. And underneath all of those services, I have some additional content that, help the search engine understand that this is like, this is SEO, one of my main services. And how it understands that is by having some of these other topics that are related to SEO kind of link back to that service, link back to that page, and kind of try to create the structure when you're developing your website. So in terms of we'll talk about interlinking a little bit as well. It's more of an advanced topic. I'll talk about it towards the end. But having this structure will go a long way, not only in helping you design your website, but also helping search engines understand what your website is about. So, this might look fancy in a diagram. This is not a big site. This is a very simple site, very simple architecture. But, when it comes to the actual website itself, what this might look like is, having services. So having a services page with all our services, and then, having a sub page for all of these as, as a separate page for that particular service. And then all of the blog posts underneath that, that are linked to that page, and the blog posts then link back to this page. So that's what I talk about when I'm talking about structure. That's probably the first thing you should do is organize that and have it have the structure kind of set up and created before you start anything else, really. This will help you quite a bit. So one of the things that you often learn is you can't improve what you don't measure. So measurement is probably one of the other topics that's very important when it comes to tracking your effort and tracking the effort that you're making and improvements that you're making. When it comes to SEO, you want to be able to track whether or not those things are making a difference. My favorite tools for tracking your results is probably Google Search Console. Google Search Console is a must. So if you're looking to track your SEO results, what you want to do is you want to create a new record for your site. So you want to go to like add property. You want to put in the domain for this particular site. And this one is actually a staging website, so it might not work. But let's say it was like cloudways.com. You go continue. It'll try to find it, and then it'll give you instructions on how to add a particular DNS record so that it'll show up in here and be verified. So this is a key step. So you don't have to add anything on your website for this to work. All you have to do is go into wherever your GoDaddy, Namecheap, or whatever domain provider you have, go into this particular domain that you're trying to add. In my case, it's clearwebsites.com. Create a TXT record in your DNS configuration and add this particular key to your DNS, and give it 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on your provider. Some are quicker than others. Click verify in order to verify that you're the owner of that particular domain. So in my case, I've already done that. So again, this doesn't take long. So if you if it's like 10 minutes and it's still not verified, there's probably something wrong. So you have to check your settings. You can also go verify later and verify it after a day or so. Sometimes DNS settings do take a little bit longer, but anyways, once you add it here and verify, you'll be able to get a lot of useful information when it comes to your website. So, this is one of my favorite tools when it comes to SEO. It gives you really good information when it comes to, your performance in terms of how much traffic you're getting. It gives you coverage information in terms of like if you have any errors on your website, technical errors that need to be fixed or whatever, and a lot of different very useful information. Any errors that actually show up when it comes to your website, you'll get alerted, and you'll get and I'm talking about technical kind of SEO or search errors. They'll show up in here and they'll give you an indication. For example, you can see an example here. So it's saying that my video, these are my video schemas. So some of the pages have videos, and it's complaining that I have a missing field or whatever. So things like this. This isn't a serious error, but it'll give you the page where this error is occurring, gives you the opportunity to fix it, and then once you do, you go in here and you say validate fix. It goes through and it fixes your errors. You want to have at least the least number of errors possible when it comes to this, because this is what this is Google's tool, and this is what Google looks at in terms of your overall website performance. So this tool is a must. Another tool that is recommended. It's not required. Gives you, again, more information is analytics. Analytics is added a little bit differently. You'll have to add a code snippet to your website. I'm going to show you actually how to do that easily using a SEO plugin for WordPress after. But either way, adding a property is fairly easy here as well. And Google Analytics, it's another Google product. It's free. It's really useful if you want to track your visitors and a whole bunch of other information. They have a lot of useful reports and tracking mechanisms and stuff. Analytics is a little bit more heavy. If you're only interested in seeing like how many visitors you're getting and from what pages and whatever, Google Search Console is more than enough. Anyways, I'd recommend Google Search Console as a must. Analytics if you want more information. Analytics is also useful, for example, to track, wrong screen, to track things like paid ads as well and some of the other traffic sources. Google Search Console only tracks organic visitors. This one will give you the breakdown of organic, social. So if you're doing social media and people are coming through there, versus paid, versus referral traffic versus organic. So it'll give you that breakdown on how many visitors you're getting from each of those channels, whereas in Google Search Console doesn't give you that information. It only gives you the organic information. So again, those are really useful tools. You want to hook one of these up. Google Search Console, again, is a must because it'll identify errors as well that you want to fix. And analytics is optional, but you want to hook something up so that you can see how you're doing in terms of if the changes that you're making are actually making a difference when it comes to your website. Yeah, so last thing, so I wanted to go to the takeaways, and it's a good thing that I did. One of the main things you want to do when you're creating when you're working on this stuff is sitemaps kind of like a must have, and I forgot to mention that actually. So if you're using WordPress, again, during this course, I'm going to use WordPress because that's what I'm familiar with. I think WordPress has some really good advantages when it comes to SEO. I've linked an article to the end of this that talks about why WordPress, in my opinion, is the best for SEO. But you can, all these strategies that I'm showing you, you can do with any technology. You don't have to use WordPress. You use Wix, you use Squarespace, you can use vanilla HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Like all of these apply to all of those different technologies, creating a good sound structure for the website, creating a good architecture, hooking up these tools. All of those work with any technology that you're using. You don't have to use WordPress. In WordPress, it's a little bit easier to set some of these things up. And one of these things is, for example, sitemaps. And I forgot to mention that a sitemap is probably one of the first things you want to do. If you're using WordPress, sitemaps are actually implemented by default in WordPress. If you install a WordPress SEO plugin like RankMath or Yoast, that'll replace the vanilla WordPress sitemap. So you want to, I'll show you where to find it when I go into the SEO plugin a little bit more. But just to show you, one of the main things you want to do when you're setting this up and when you're launching a website is you want to add this particular sitemap to the Google Search Console. And you can see mine's already added for the live site, and it's a success. So many URLs it found, and you can actually even see it. Here it'll show you that it's active and that it's good to go. SEO, from an SEO perspective, a sitemap is not a must-have, although it's good practice. I always recommend creating one. Google doesn't need a sitemap for it to crawl your website and to recognize your pages. But I found that by adding a sitemap, my pages that I update or add to my website get picked up a lot quicker when you do have a sitemap. you know, and you can see here, it actually, you know, gets refreshed a lot quicker, and it causes your pages to be indexed faster on Google, I found from personal experience. So from my perspective, you know, a sitemap is a must, and always add a sitemap when you're starting a new project. So let's just go back to our key takeaways. So again, number one, plan out your structure before designing and coding your website, no matter what technology you're using. This will help Google understand your website better, and it'll really help you gain some results, and a good structure will enable you to build on top of your website and have better results in the long term. Again, like I learned this later in the game, unfortunately. So for example, for my own website, after I started to, you know, after I implemented this, I saw some great results and great improvements when it comes to my SEO. But, you know, because I had all these pages and blogs and all this, like everything was all over the place, this wasn't structured the way it should be. It took me a long time to re-architect my site and move everything around, relink everything, and make it more efficient than if I did it from the get-go. So this is a must, like do this at the beginning always. And again, setting up tracking tools is great. It'll give you a lot of information when it comes to your website, and it'll actually show you whether or not you're making improvements that matter, and that you're adding things that are making a difference when it comes to your SEO efforts. And last but not least, create a sitemap, submit it to Google. That's also a must. And something I want to mention is a little bit more of an advanced topic. Again, back to the structure, because it's so important. You know, creating a good structure also enables you to link things more effectively. So this is called interlinking, or, you know, creating content silos. This is more advanced. I'm going to attach a resource at the end if you want to learn more about it. Again, it's more of an advanced topic. I would recommend kind of going through the course first, implementing some of these things, learning a little bit more, and then focusing on like, you know, learning more about these content silos and creating content that, you know, helps Google understand your website better, and some good interlinking strategies when it comes to, you know, how you link different pages and resources in your website for better search engine ranking. So it's a bit of a more advanced topic, but I'll include a resource at the end to help you get started with that. So that's it for topic number 2, site structure and measurements. Those are the key things you need to know. And yeah, let's move on to the rest of the course. All right, welcome back to SEO for Web Developers. This is section 3. And in this section, I'm going to talk about setting up a SEO plugin for WordPress. If you're not using WordPress, you can definitely do all of these steps manually, and you can implement them using any framework or technology. One of the benefits of using WordPress for SEO, in my opinion, is enabling and using some of these tools that will, you know, expedite your SEO efforts, and also automate a lot of things that you would have to do manually without the use of a plugin. So, you know, having an SEO plugin for WordPress isn't going to guarantee that you're going to be on top of Google as soon as you install and configure it by any means. However, it will help when you're creating content, when you're creating pages, and some general, you know, good SEO practices will be automated by using an SEO plugin. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. It's probably for SEOs, you know, most SEOs are going to use, if they're using WordPress, they're going to use a plugin in addition to some other tools. So I highly recommend it. You know, if you are looking to automate some of these tasks and make your job easier, I would say use a plugin for WordPress and set it up correctly and use it to your advantage. Again, this doesn't guarantee results, but it's a good tool to have that can make your job a little bit easier. So if you are using WordPress, great. You know, follow this along. If you're not using WordPress, I'll kind of explain some of the main features of these tools, and you can certainly, look on your own and do some research on how you can implement these in any other framework that you're using. A lot of JavaScript frameworks have some of this functionality as packages. So, for example, I showed earlier a sitemap setting and creating a dynamic sitemap. There are libraries in React or TypeScript or whatever other JavaScript framework you're using in order to generate those dynamically as well. If you're using another CMS, for example, as well. So there are ways to implement some of these features, some of this functionality without using WordPress. However, for SEO, if you are interested in SEO, I still think WordPress is probably the best way to go. And it will give you the most bang for your buck if you're trying to learn SEO and if you're trying to implement SEO. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to go into your WordPress backend. You want to go add new here under plugins, and then you want to either search for Yoast is a really good plugin for SEO. It's very popular. It's more popular than Rank Math, which I use, or you can install Rank Math, which is another very popular plugin for WordPress. You see it has over 1 million installs, great reviews, and I already have it installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go, I won't update it right now. I'll just go through the setup wizard. So this is what you would see if you were setting up your site. If you install this plugin, it'll go through the setup wizard initially. So I'm going to take you through some of these options, and I'm going to explain why they're important, which ones are important, which ones you need to worry about, and then also you can decide whether or not which of these you want to enable and which ones make sense in your scenario. And I'll also talk about how you could potentially implement these manually as well if you're not using WordPress. So I'm going to go on advanced through the wizard. Here's where you can set up and add some more information about your personal website. So you can describe your business, you can put in a logo, you can put in a social share image, and you can save all those settings. So what will happen here is this plugin will create a schema behind the scenes. Schema is a JavaScript description of your website and certain functionality of your website. It helps the search engines understand your website better. And it's a very good practice to implement schemas when you can, if they make sense for your pages and your websites, because it helps Google understand what your website is about. And it also helps you, in some cases, land what's called a rich snippet. So if you've seen those on Google, if you're searching for something and then you see like those top questions, for example, that's called a rich snippet. If you have an FAQ schema, what's called an FAQ schema, you could land on top page of Google, for example, for that particular question and answer, and you can get some traffic that way. So that's an example of a schema. So you want to set this up. This will automate, again, things so you don't have to do this manually. You certainly can implement any schema manually as well on your website. You don't need WordPress, you don't need a plugin, but this just helps you speed things up. The other thing that's really useful is a default social share image. So if you forget to specify a meta description, for example, and an image that you want to share for your social shares, you could set up a default here so that it automatically, if you're sharing your link to your website, for example, on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, this social share image will show up automatically if you forget to add one in your page or your post on your website. So again, another useful feature that you can add. It doesn't hurt, and we'll click and save next. If you remember, also I mentioned I'll show you a way to connect your services easier as well. Some of these plugins also have the ability to connect to your analytics, Google Analytics and Search Console. Remember I showed you earlier how to select how to add a domain to Google Search Console, and then you can, you get that code snippet, and then you add it to your domain. You can, with the use of a plugin, you can actually automate all that and just do it in a plugin. You just log into your Google account through here, and you say, this is the property I want to map, and you say enable, this linkage basically between these tools and your website. Again, another kind of benefit of these plugins is you can do this without knowing a lot of code if you don't know code, and you can set this up quite easily without having to add any extra code on your website manually if you don't know how to do that. So it's a great way to, link things. You don't have to do this. I usually do it the manual way, but you can certainly connect your services here as well and do it that way. Another handy thing, I have the pro version, so you might not be able to see some of these options here for Rank Math, although I did turn off the pro version just for my demo. It looks like some of the settings are still picking up. So, for example, these email reports, so it can send you a weekly report about how you're doing, how your SEO is going for your website weekly. So you can enable that as well if you like. Another important feature is the sitemap. These are dynamic sitemaps. So basically what happens, and one of the awesome things about WordPress is if you create a dynamic sitemap, anytime you create a new page or you delete a page or you rename a page or whatever, it'll automatically update your sitemap, which is great. Again, there are JavaScript libraries for that as well if you're not using WordPress, but WordPress comes with that out of the box. Also, the SEO plugins create the sitemap for you. They do a little bit of a better job, in my opinion. The SEO plugins do than out of the box WordPress. There's more configuration options and things like that. So this is a must. I would enable it. And again, I would add this to your Google Search Console as well. There's some additional SEO tweaks, as they call them here, some additional options that you can enable. So for example, if you have tag archives, or if you have categories, for example, it can, category pages, it can add those as well to your sitemap, or it can disable them. Here, it'll say just like no index. Basically what I'm saying here is if I do have tag archives and they're empty, don't add them to the, don't add a dead end to the sitemap. Because just, set them to no index so that robots don't follow them and get confused. You can also set all of your no follow links to no follow. I don't usually recommend doing this because, for good SEO practices and just being a good internet citizen, having follow links and attributing, some authority to the sites that you're linking to is considered good practice. So I would usually leave this off. And then last but not least on this screen is you can also set it so that any external hyperlinks that you add in your page or post, it'll automatically open it up in a new tab. So you don't have to manually target blank. It'll just do that automatically for all external links, which is good practice. And I think, enabling this doesn't hurt. It actually helps if you do forget to add that to your code or enable that setting. So it's optional again, but I recommend turning that on so people don't navigate away from your site if you forget to do it. Again, you can do this manually. I don't know if there's a JavaScript thing outside of WordPress that you can enable, to do this automatically. I'm sure there is, but again, another thing you can automate with these tools in WordPress that make your job a little bit easier. And that's it. So once you finish that, you can go to advanced options as well. Remember, I turned on advanced, the advanced wizard when I started. This thing is useful. So the next thing is there's the role manager. So you can set different roles to administer and manage the options for Rank Math. I usually turn this off just because I only have me and somebody else actually managing my site. And we're both administrators, so I don't need to worry about this. But you could set, for example, what a WordPress editor can do versus what an administrator can do versus what an author can do. These are default WordPress roles, so you can set what different access levels can manage within the SEO tool. So like I said, I don't need this, so I'm just going to turn it off. And I'm going to go to the next screen, which is the 404 monitor. Again, another super useful feature of these plugins. Actually, this particular one, and this is part of the reason why I use Rank Math, is this is actually in the free version of Rank Math. And Yoast, you would have to buy the premium version in order to have this option. So 404 monitor will tell you if somebody's visiting your site and there's a broken page that they can't navigate to, so that would generate a 404 error, and that's not a good practice for SEO. So you want to fix those as soon as possible. This enables you to see if there are any 404 errors that you're not catching. It'll monitor and record them, and then you can go into the 404 monitor every once in a while and see if you have any broken links that you can fix. Redirections are also great. Redirections are basically if you do rename a page, or if you do want to delete a page and point that traffic to another page, you can do that with redirections. You can just say, I'm redirecting this hyperlink to another hyperlink. You could, of course, again, do this manually in your htaccess file. But again, with these plugins, this can even be automated. So actually with redirections on this particular site, it not only enables you to be able to create redirections, but it'll also pick up if you do rename a page and you forget to add a redirection, it'll actually do it automatically for you. So it's a great feature as well of Rank Math. And last but not least, sitemaps. So if you remember, schemas, not sitemaps. Schemas are basically metadata that describes your website in JavaScript, JSON format. And it's a great feature to help you help search engines really and understand what your content is about. So it describes your website to a search engine bot, and it allows you to pick up some rich results in some cases, and it can help you with SEO. It's not guaranteed again, but anything you can do to help search engines understand better what your website is about is a great SEO practice, and you should definitely do it. With these plugins, again, you can automate this. So a schema markup would automatically get generated if you turn this on, and a schema markup would be generated for example, for all blog posts and pages. It's going to create an article schema with blog post type, for example, to let the to let Google know that this is what this website is about and this is the author and things like that. Schemas are very important. I'm going to go through it in another module. They're important for technical SEO. If you want to learn SEO, you definitely have to know a little bit more about schemas. It's a great feature to add to your websites if you don't have them. I'll go through them in a little bit more detail in another module again, but enable this. This basically automates creating schemas both for pages and for posts. So it's a great feature that gets added on automatically for every new content piece that you create. And so, yeah, so it's an awesome feature, and I recommend doing this. Again, you could do these manually. You could create schemas manually and add that JSON code to your website using any website framework, or even if you're just using HTML, CSS, you could add it manually. But again, these plugins will do that automatically, so you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it manually. So it's a great little feature. We'll go save and continue, and that's basically it. Rank Math will now show up in our tab here. You'll see all of these different options here. I'm not going to go through all of them. That could be a whole course on its own, but I definitely urge you to explore this a little bit more and to learn how to use this tool effectively. As I go through some of the future modules, I'm also going to use this plugin in order to help me, for example, create content and identify any issues when I'm creating content in order for us to really hone in on optimizing our content for SEO. So I am going to use this plugin quite a bit as I go through the course. So, one of the main steps you want to do when you're setting up a new project, especially if you're doing using WordPress, is install an SEO plugin. It'll help your efforts quite a bit. Again, it doesn't guarantee results. You don't have to use one, but I think it helps, especially for beginners, so you can kind of start understanding some of those concepts within SEO and the technical SEO practice. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can definitely take a look. I kind of went through all of the main things that we want to tackle, which is basically, creating a sitemap, creating schemas, watching out for 404s and creating redirections. And generally, when you're creating content, you'll see what this looks like. Basically, it'll show up for every new page and post that we create. If for whatever reason you missed a step or you want to go through the wizard again, you can do that in Dashboard, Setup Wizard, go through the wizard, or you can go into the general settings or any of these settings here actually to find out more and to enable any of those things that we missed. For example, when we were going through the wizard, there's a lot more actually features in here as well that you can go through and configure. Even leaving it as a beginner, leaving all of these as default is great. As you learn a little bit more about SEO and you want to implement some new features, there are other important and useful features in here that you can use in order to improve your SEO even more. For example, one of my main ones is using breadcrumbs, and you'll see how I use them in this website to describe to a user where they are in the journey, and also create a breadcrumb schema. It's another type of schema that describes, and it is good practice for Google to understand the structure of your websites. Remember, structure is very important, right? So when we talked about that in the previous module, I said that, you want to set up a good structure for your website. That's one of the main things you want to plan out before you start any SEO project. And you can see here, I'm using a breadcrumb schema, which basically tells Google, I'm this deep, I'm on this particular page. Sorry, I'm actually one beyond that page, and I can go back easily to navigate back to where I came from. Or what I can also do is, generate that behind the scenes. This actually generates a schema that describes to Google, where we are in the hierarchy. So it's a great little kind of SEO add-on. I'll show you what schemas look like as well from a, go to the validator.schema.org, and I'm going to enter in my website here, and I'll show you what these look like to the search engines. Basically, there's all this code, the back end of the homepage, and then all of these schemas are recognized by bots. Basically, one describes, this is generated by Rank Math, I believe, and it describes, that this is a local business, the name of the business, the contact information, and some useful things like that. So again, like my ratings. Actually, this one actually is from another plugin I'm using for creating reviews schemas for my website. So, this one was created by that particular plugin automatically. This one's handy because it actually pulls in my Google reviews into the website so that it describes to Google that these are my reviews for this particular business. So that one's created by another plugin. And then, of course, FAQ and article. FAQ I'll go through in a little bit more detail. It's another very useful schema that you can implement on your website that describes most common questions and answers that you're trying to answer, and that'll help you actually land one of those rich results on Google actually. So if you remember, we set up this article schema, which this is a web page article web page schema, and this one describes again what this particular page is about, who owns it, who created it, and things like that. So it's very useful for Google to understand what this site is about. So I highly recommend implementing these. And then FAQ is a I will go through this in a little bit more detail, how to create these. It's good practice generally if you want to include some questions and answers. This describes, those questions that I want to target. So how much does it cost to hire a web designer, blah, 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 answer. So there's a few of them here. So it's great practice to implement these if you can. And another one is the breadcrumb schema that actually shows up here in this article. And it'll actually show, I'm actually on a home page, so I don't have a breadcrumb schema on here, but if I was to run this for this particular page services, you would see the breadcrumb schema as well, for example, show up here or as a separate, we could try it as well. Let's see, just to show you what that looks like. We'll pick this page. We'll do another test here. And you'll see that all of my pages have a schema, at least one. This particular one is actually a service because it's my service page. And it has a video. And actually, for this particular one, not sure if oh, here's the breadcrumb as well, right? So this is the breadcrumb. It's actually showing up under this video object schema, which is fine. And it describes exactly what we were talking about, breadcrumb list, and all of the items, Calgary Web Design, our services, and then this particular page. So it's showing up in there. So you can see I use different schemas for different pages to describe what the page is about and to give Google a little bit more information about what my pages are about. So that's a very quick overview of the plugins, of the Rank Math plugin specifically for WordPress. I think it helps quite a bit. I do recommend implementing it if you're using WordPress specifically, and you'll see how we're going to use it in some of the future modules as well. All right, so for the key takeaways for this particular module, SEO plugins, I think using WordPress will help you tremendously if you're trying to focus on SEO. I'll include an article about why I think WordPress is the best for SEO if you're focusing on SEO, and why it's popular in the first place for developing websites generally, but especially if you're trying to focus on SEO. And using a WordPress SEO plugin can definitely help you automate some SEO tasks, as you'll see through this course. And I showed you how to learn and configure the Rank Math plugin. It's my favorite. I recommend it highly, especially if you want something for free to get started. It's a great one that offers a lot of functionality for free, actually, compared to some other SEO plugins that don't have nearly as much functionality. And yeah, the last thing is just kind of learn. I could do a whole course probably on just Rank Math. We'll go through some of the functionality as well in the rest of the course, but I urge you to learn Rank Math, just the basic settings, going through the wizard, configuring, and some of the features that it offers, and playing around with those features in order to get the most out of the plugin. Yeah, and that's it for this particular module. So we'll see you in the next one where we'll talk about keyword analysis. Thanks. Welcome back to SEO for Web Developers. In this topic number 4, we're going to talk about keyword research. So keyword research in the SEO world is one of the most important topics or concepts for you to understand as a beginning. There are more advanced strategies that are used by people that specialize in SEO. I think understanding the basics really helps you as you're getting started as a web developer learning SEO. And it's one of the critical things that when I started learning SEO, I didn't fully understand that it really hurt my progress, and it also hurt my SEO efforts that I was trying to implement on my website. So understanding this and doing more research and refining your knowledge when it comes to keyword research is critical. Keywords are essentially the search terms that you enter into a search engine. For the topic of this course, I'm obviously going to focus mostly on Google because it's the most popular search engine, but keywords definitely apply to other search engines as well. It's just Google is the most popular one, so I'm gonna use Google examples in this course mostly. A keyword or a search phrase is what you type into the search engine in order to see or find something on the search engine. So for example, web design is a keyword. Web design, if you enter web design, you get, this is a rich snippet over here. It describes, what web design is about. You're also getting some ads here initially. Don't mind this. This is just some of my performance for this particular keyword, which is very generic and it's very, very big, very broad, I should say. Web design is a two-word keyword, so it's going to be very competitive and it's going to be hard to rank for some of these things like web design. But essentially, what a keyword is a phrase that somebody enters into a search engine in order to find what they're looking for. Doing keyword research is the practice of identifying keywords that are relevant to your website, that you want to rank for, that you want to optimize your website for, and potentially rank for when doing SEO. When we talk about keyword research, we're talking about developing a plan to identify keywords that somebody would be entering into Google in order to find your website. There are a number of different tools that you can use for keyword research. There are free ones and there are paid ones. Obviously, when you're starting out, I recommend using free ones to start to identify some good opportunities, and then moving on to better paid options that are available if you start getting more serious about SEO. But you can do keyword research with free tools. Some of my favorite tools in order to do keyword research, I'll go through briefly in this module. But essentially, learn keyword research. It's probably one of the more important concepts in this course, along with the creating a good website structure, which is what you want to do. You also want to identify the right keywords that you want to target for your main page, for your blog pages, and so forth. When I was getting started with SEO, I didn't have a good understanding of keyword difficulty and some of these terms that we're going to go through, and it really hurt my effort. I thought that by just adding, for example, my main keyword, Calgary web design, to my website all over the place, that it would automatically land me on this first page of Google. You can see that I'm making progress, very slow progress, to get onto this first page, but this is very competitive. You can see here, I actually have a Chrome extension called Keyword Surfer. It's free. You can download it. It gives you some information here based on any keyword you enter into Google. It tells you how much search volume it has and how expensive it would be per click, for example, if you're doing a Google AdWords campaign. This is actually useful. This cost is useful here because it tells you roughly that this particular keyword is, because it's expensive, you could tell that it's probably going to be competitive because it's $12.60 every time somebody clicks. If you had an ad up here, which I do, by the way, it's not showing up now, but any of these ads, I'm not going to click on them, obviously, because it's going to cost these companies money. But if you click on any of these websites, they're paying essentially $12.60 a click, right? So you definitely want to look for that, and keyword research would identify that. So something like Calgary web design having a high search volume here that I was trying to rank for or target initially, I didn't know enough to know about difficulty and competitiveness of keywords in order to know that it's probably not attainable for a brand new website, because people have been probably trying to rank for that for a while. It's very competitive. It brings in a lot of volume. It's expensive. Therefore, it's probably not something you can rank for easily. Google will give you the first indication. Again, when you're doing this type of research, you want to use some of these tools. Keyword Surfer is great, and it's free. And you can get that and add it to your browser as you're doing research. So when you're first starting a website project for yourself or a client, the first thing you want to do is obviously create that structure that I talked about, and then you want to create or identify the main keywords that you want to target in order to try to rank that website for particular keywords. You will do this for every page. So this is where it becomes very tedious and time consuming, but this is why SEO is a more sought after skill, because it does take time and effort and energy in order to get this right, and a lot of planning. But it's very useful to create that plan when you're first getting started as to which keywords you want to target. When you're first starting out, there are a few strategies that you can do. There's what's called, so all of these very short keywords are going to be very competitive. So for example, web, has a very high search volume, obviously, but it's probably going to be, for you to rank for web would probably be impossible. Web design, gets a little bit less volume, but it's also very competitive, for example, and it's going to be tough because it's a two-word keyword or phrase. Once you start getting into a little bit more niche, or what's called long tail keywords, then you get into something more manageable that you can actually target for your website. So for example, web design in Southwest Calgary is a long tail keyword. So this particular one, you can see it's probably not a good example because it has zero volume in my area. However, something like that would probably be better to target because it's not going to be as competitive, because it's not going to have as high of a search volume to make it worthwhile for more established companies. And you can start kind of carving out your niche and developing and creating some of those on your website so that you can tune your pages for that particular keyword, and then so you start ranking on Google and have an easier time ranking for those particular long tail keywords that are easier to accomplish. When I started, remember I said one of the main issues I had, or one of the main challenges I had, or things that I didn't know about, was I was targeting all of these competitive keywords that were of higher search volume, and I wasn't getting anywhere because they're competitive and a lot of people are targeting those already. So I didn't know about keyword research or identifying longer tail keywords that would work for me in my case, and so I spun around a lot and lost a lot of effort. So what you want to do, again, you want to get familiar with keyword research and plan out which keywords you want to target by, with your pages on your website, and also with the particular blog posts, for example, that are targeted, that can bring in traffic to your website and that are attainable for a new upstart company or project. I mentioned a few terms here: keyword difficulty, competitiveness. Those two are related. Cost per click, that's if you're doing paid ads for a particular keyword, and there's also search volume. So search volume is how many searches a month in your particular area there would be for that particular keyword, and then difficulty is how hard or easy would it be to rank for that particular keyword. In order to identify these, there are a few ways. There are some free tools that you can use to get started. If you're just starting out, of course you can use Google, and you can use this free extension for Chrome in order to identify, again, like I said, the search volume, for example, and you can play around and actually see. Google is probably the best place because Google will tell you which pages are already ranking for that term, and you can take a look at them and you can open them and see which sites are ranking, and you can kind of take a look at what they're doing well, and not copy, obviously, but get some design elements and some ideas in terms of what type of content they have that helps them rank for that keyword, for that particular keyword that you're searching for. So you want to explore some of those and see if you know what's missing from your website that's preventing you maybe from ranking for that keyword. As I mentioned, there are some great tools that you can use for keyword research. So what you want to do when you're starting off an SEO project is you want to create your structure, then you want to do the keyword research, and you want to tune all of your pages on your website for a particular keyword. I'm going to show you how to do that in one of the future modules, but the first thing you have to do is plan out which keywords you want to target, and you're going to do that by using keyword research tools. You can Google free keyword research tools to find other ones that I'm not going to show today. And I'll also show you a paid one just so you can see the difference between doing research on a paid tool versus a free tool that's going to be limited, and it's not going to have as good of information as the paid tools. So the first one is WordStream. You can go to their wordstream.com/keywords. You can search either by URL to find suggestions. So you can put in a competitor URL, for example, in here, and you can find out which keywords they're using to already rank. So this is useful if you wanted to see if a competitor is already showing up and you're kind of already aware that they're doing well on Google. You can enter in their website. For example, I could do this, and I'll be able to see all of the keywords that I'm currently ranking for in order to get keyword ideas for your own website. That's a very popular way of doing things, and actually a lot of SEOs do that. They look for a really good website that's already ranking, and then they'll get keyword ideas based on that particular website that's already ranking, and kind of create their unique pages and content in order to target similar or the same keywords. Another way you can do it is if you already know the keyword. For example, I know that my clients would be looking for Calgary web design. I can enter it in here. I can enter in my location, and I can go find my keywords. What this will do, it's going to kind of scrape their database, and it's going to find not only that keyword and give me more information about that keyword. It will also give me related keywords that I might not have been thinking of that might also be good ideas. So for example, website design Calgary has 1,000 search volume per month. This is their calculation on cost per click. I'm not sure how accurate it is, and it gives you a good indication of how high or low the competition is. So what you would do in this case is you would do some research in terms of figuring out if there's a different variation that gives you a good, a better mix in terms of acceptable search volume, but not very high competition. So a lot of those long-tail keywords are going to kind of fit that criteria. You have to find the right one in order to find one that has decent volume, but that has low competition, so that you can target those and create those on your website so that you can actually rank. A lot of strategies in SEO are actually based on this premise of creating content that has a high volume, high search volume if you can find them, and low competition. Those are the gems. People spend hours every week searching for those opportunities, believe it or not. And it's kind of a played out strategy, just because you can imagine there's only so many relevant keywords that you can target for your particular niche, and everybody's kind of doing it that way. But there are opportunities still to be found, and with some other strategies that I'm going to show you, you can still rank for some of those medium and low keywords, even if there are other results on Google that might be already ranking. So they are achievable if you follow the right methodology. But that's basically the trick. When it comes to keyword research, you want to find keywords that are not too competitive, but that have a good volume. This particular tool is saying that all of these are high competition, which I don't believe. For example, Calgary web design prices is not something that is high competition, it's probably a low. I know this because this is my kind of area, so I know all of these keywords, and it still has a decent volume. It doesn't have a crazy volume, meaning, you know, if 1,000 people aren't searching for it every month, 50 people are. However, this is a high intent keyword. What that means is somebody looking for website design Calgary, they might be looking for some inspiration, for example, to, you know, to find inspiration to make their own Calgary website. Somebody who's searching for Calgary web design prices is probably doing some shopping around and is probably ready to buy. So, you know, even though this one has a lower volume, it still might be a better keyword for you to target in order to incorporate this into your website, because 50 searches is still quite a bit. If you're number one on the search engine results page on Google, you're still going to be getting the majority of these 50 clicks. So you can imagine if you're getting, let's say 75% of these, if you're number one, you're getting quite a few clicks. You know, even if you're getting 50%, you're getting 25 clicks and 25 visitors to your website. They're searching for this. Even if you close, you know, 5% of those, or half of those, even better, you're still doing well. You're still getting a solid lead or a few leads every month through something like this. So don't worry too much about, you know, going after these very high volume keywords, because they're usually going to be higher competition as well. So you can see, for example, a tool like this. This is a free tool. I used a fairly popular search term. If you search for something a little bit more obscure, it's not going to have as good information probably. And I'm already kind of questioning some of the value of this, but it's good. It's a good tool if you're looking for something free to get started, and you just want to do some initial keyword research and get some additional ideas that you might not have thought of. For example, like the one we identified, which is Calgary web design pricing. Maybe you didn't consider that one. Another really good tool that I use, that I used to use actually before I had paid tools, was Ubersuggest. This is also a free, there's a free version and a paid version of it. By Neil Patel, he's fairly well known in the SEO industry. Same kind of idea. You know, you select your region. I'm going to select Canada. You can enter in the URL, or you can enter in a keyword. I'm going to do the same thing just so you can see that sometimes there are differences between these tools. So I'm going to enter in Calgary web design as the keyword, and it's going to give me some information here based on volume, difficulty, and so forth. So you can see already there's quite the difference, right? This tool is saying that there's 4,400 search volume per month, which is too high. I don't think that's accurate. It'll give you a difficulty score. It'll give you the difficulty score of paid. I don't think it's easy because it's expensive, 23 bucks a click. I don't honestly think it's that high either. So again, you know, you could see there is a discrepancy and a difference between, mind you, website design Calgary is a different keyword from Calgary web design. That's true. So maybe that's the difference between the variation. But again, take some of these stats with a grain of salt, especially with these free tools. It's not going to give you as good of information, but it can give you some really good ideas, again, based on difficulty, based on volume and things like that. So you could see same thing here. It gives you some additional ideas, like web design company in Calgary may be, you know, a better one to go for, because well, probably not actually. Search SEO difficulty says it's actually higher difficulty than website design Calgary. So yeah, it's again, it gives some, it'll give you an indication anyways, some other ideas of what you can do in order to maybe target some other keywords that may not be as competitive, but that might give you adequate search volume, for example. So that's what keyword research is really all about, is getting that seed, what they call a seed keyword, trying to figure out, okay, you know, I'm in a web design business, or entering in a URL for one of my competitors and saying, you know, maybe this is a better keyword for me to target. getting some ideas and figuring out what the best ideas are for you to target on your website. So that's what keyword research is all about at the end of the day. This is also useful here, looking at related keywords again, just to get more ideas and to find maybe some opportunities. For example, this is a great example actually. Calgary Web Design Firm doesn't have as high volume, but it is totally achievable because it has a lower difficulty when it comes to how easy it is to be able to rank for that on Google. So there's a lot of useful information here. There's other information like, well, actually it doesn't have it here. I'll show you in the paid tool, but in terms of questions. So what are the common questions people would ask if they're searching for this that you can incorporate into your content? And I'm going to show you that when we start kind of building out a sample content, how you can incorporate those things in order to increase your rankings for that particular keyword that you're targeting. It'll also give you some pages that are currently maybe showing up on Google. I don't know how good these examples are here, but some content ideas so you can get some ideas on how you can improve or how you can actually create content to reach Google for that particular keyword. So it gives you a lot of useful information. This tool is fairly good for a free version, and definitely something I would recommend exploring. There's other things you can learn from these SEO tools that are very useful. Actually, one of the main things that helped me learn SEO is using these free tools, because all of these different concepts I would dig in and try to understand in a little bit more detail about, like, what is SEO difficulty and what does it constitute, and how do I, which ones are achievable for me and which ones aren't. I would really, use the free tools in order to learn more about some of these concepts and learn how to apply them on my website. So that's another, Ubersuggest is another resource. And then, of course, keyword research, keyword planning by Google Ads. So you don't need to have Google Ads, paid ads in order to use this tool. You can sign up for a free Google Ads account, and you can use their keyword planner for free. How you access it is once you sign up an account, you go to tools and settings, and you go into keyword planner. Once you go in there, you can create a plan for a particular campaign where you can kind of bunch a bunch of keywords together, or do some research and kind of save them. Or you could just do like discover new keywords here, and we're going to enter in exactly the same one that we entered in, or you can enter in the URL, same thing, and get results. So actually you can see that Calgary Web Design 4400. So I recall somewhere that actually Ubersuggest uses this as a data set, so it might actually be more accurate than some of the others. I'm not 100% sure how accurate these monthly searches are either, but again, take it with a grain of salt. But obviously, this is why we're doing this. We're trying to identify keywords that we might want to target for our pages. The nice thing about this, of course, as well, is the keyword planner is it gives you additional ideas. Again, it gives you average monthly searches. It doesn't give you the difficulty here. It gives you the competition, but this is for paid. So this is going to be competition. This isn't keyword difficulty for organic searches. This is keyword difficulty for paid ads. So competition is low for Calgary Web Design probably because it's an expensive keyword, and you're going to pay anywhere from $8.40 to $21.43 per click, right? So you have to have quite a big budget in order to go after something like this and pay for this keyword. Nice thing about this, again, is it'll give you additional ideas on other keyword ideas that you can target along with their volume and their difficulty here for paid, of course, and their pricing as well. So you can add these the keyword planner in Google Ads, of course, is trying to push you towards creating a paid ad campaign. in order to pay for that ad and have it show up on the search results on this top section here, which is ads, right? So if you do, I showed that earlier, I'm not gonna show it again, but these are all paid. So this is what you're planning with this keyword planner tool here. For this course, obviously we're focusing on organic SEO. We're not focusing on paid ads and PPC. So again, I'm not going to spend time on this too much. It's just to illustrate that you can do keyword research in Google Ads as well using their free keyword planner tool, which is another great tool if you're starting out and if you want to do some free keyword research without having to pay for a tool. Now, as soon as you can afford a tool, buy a tool, because I'll show you in a second here. So this is one of the popular SEO tools called Ahrefs. You can sign up for this tool for free. Actually, I highly recommend it. I'm going to cover that in one of the next modules. You can sign up for free. You can put in your URL and it'll actually do a technical audit for free of your website that'll inform you what you need to fix in order to improve your SEO. Some of these other features like Keyword Explorer, for example, you're not going to be able to use with the free version. You need a paid version, and you'll see why. It has a lot more information than some of these other options that we saw. So you could create a list, of course, for some of the projects that I'm working on, or you can just start typing in keywords or one keyword and see what happens. This is under Keywords Explorer. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to switch my region to Canada, and you'll see how much more information I get from a paid tool. And again, everybody has their own proprietary information source in terms of how they generate some of these stats. So again, you have to use these with a grain of salt, because you'll find some discrepancies. And so you want to make sure that, don't focus too much on things like search volume, for example, and difficulty, because they're all very they're going to differ based on different tools that you're using. What you want to do is, the point of this exercise really is for us to identify keywords that are less competitive, but that have a good enough volume that's worthwhile you targeting them. And so you can see it with the paid tool, for example, again, it has the difficulty, has the volume. It tells you who the top ranking result is, tells you some global volumes as well, and what you can expect from other areas of the globe as well. And really useful thing here is you can, if you have a paid plan, you can do this over and over. Some of these free tools are not they're gonna restrict you. They'll let you do this like 3 times a day, 3 keywords, and then you're done, kind of thing. And with the paid tool, obviously you're gonna have way more credits and you're gonna be able to do this over and over. Some other useful things here, for example, it'll tell you some other terms that might be similar to this, but and give you their volumes as well. It'll give you common questions. For this particular one, there aren't any common ones that it picked up, and so forth. It'll also tell you, different competitors and their particular position history and where they were, and you can do some historical analysis, which is again cool, but not something you're going to get in free tools. You're also going to get some idea on some paid, who's doing paid for this particular keyword, and those links. And then of course the SERP. So this is the search engine results page, or short acronym is SERP. And this is what shows up on Google if you search for that particular keyword, and it'll give you all of the pages, all the websites that are ranking for this particular keyword on Google. You can click on them and open them up, and you can see which keyword it's picking up, and sometimes there are variations. Web design Calgary is different than Calgary web design, even though they're very close, and it'll tell you, for these particular websites, which of these is it picking up and what the volume is. So it gives you some really good information. Now, the value again of these paid tools is you can also drill into either search suggestions or related terms or matching terms to get additional ideas. So for example, search suggestions is going to open up another screen. It's going to give you a ton of other keywords that might be related, that might have better opportunities for you, that maybe have a lower difficulty. Again, that's a bad example, but again, not, this particular one's probably not, something you're targeting unless you're creating courses. But you would go through some of these examples and say, okay, maybe Calgary web developer, maybe that's better than Calgary web design if somebody's looking for a Calgary web developer, because this one gets 20 searches a month, let's say. However, it only has a difficulty of 7, let's say. So this one's way easier for me to rank for, and this is something maybe I would target as a beginner, to say, I'm still good with maybe, getting 5 clicks a month for free, through organic, because that can also lead to additional leads. And you can, drill in. Not all of these are going to be relevant, obviously. So, you have to kind of drill in a little bit more and find ones that will meet your criteria and that'll give you the results that you're looking for. So that's what keyword is all about in a nutshell, is looking for opportunities that you can identify, that'll be good for you to rank for, easier to rank for, that still give you a decent volume that you can incorporate into your website and tune your pages for that particular keyword so that you show up on Google. And in the next few sections, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that so that you can get started. And after you find that perfect keyword, that you can actually apply those best practices so that you can rank for those particular keywords on Google. And just to recap, keyword analysis, some of the key takeaways. Keyword research can really make or break your SEO results. So remember, I said, this is probably one of the more important topics when you're learning SEO, to really understand this and use it to your advantage. I spent a lot of time, wasted effort, not applying these techniques when I was looking to rank my new website. So you definitely want to spend a lot of time to really learn how to utilize this concept well and to your advantage. Learn how to identify the right keywords. Like I said, some don't go after very high volumes all the time. Try to look for intent as well. So what is the user's intention? What are they searching for? We saw some great examples of that. For example, some people might be searching for web design courses, and you're selling websites, for example, for clients, and that's actually not your target market. So you're looking for people that maybe small business owners that are looking for web design services or whatnot. So intent is important, and intent is something that you always want to consider when you're doing keyword research. So learn how to identify the right ones. Use Google. Try to actually search for that keyword that you find through your research, and try to see how other people are using it, and to get an idea of what the intent is of that particular keyword. And again, as you saw, using free tools is fine when you're getting started, but you're just going to get a lot more value out of paid tools. And if you want to do SEO seriously and start offering those services, you want to upgrade to a paid tool as soon as possible. So that's it for topic number 4, keyword research, and we'll see you in a bit. Hello and welcome to topic number 5, creating content that will rank. So in addition to topic number 4, which was doing keyword research, one of the more important topics of this course is going to be creating content that ranks for that particular keyword. In addition to picking the right keywords, creating content for those keywords or tuning your web pages for those particular keywords are usually, as a beginner, that's going to be the basis of your strategy in order to grow traffic to your website. Obviously, you don't have to do this if you're doing unintentional SEO. So for example, a lot of people would just start creating a bunch of content on their blog, and then they would get certain keywords are automatically picked up by Google without really doing the research, knowing, what type of things have a good volume, what type of things are competitive and aren't competitive. So they'll kind of do what I call kind of accidental SEO, which is totally fine if you're getting started and you just want to start adding content to your website through a CMS or whatever. But doing more meaningful and more targeted SEO usually involves, finding out what you want to rank for in the first place, and then making the changes to your website in order to target those particular keywords. And this is where content creation and tuning your existing pages comes into play. I'm going to use WordPress for this again in order to show how easy it is in WordPress to use some of the SEO tools, for example, to help you with this. Again, you don't need SEO tools. However, they help. You can also do this manually. Just keep track of what we're making, meaning without WordPress, meaning with JavaScript, for example, you can do this as well. Just keep track of what we're tuning here as we go so that you can apply the same settings and features to your non-WordPress website. So you can tune pages or posts. So if you have a non-WordPress website, you can tune your CMS pages, your CMS content, or your web pages for particular keywords. I'm going to show you how to do, for example, a new post. Let's say you found Calgary web design prices to be a keyword that maybe has decent volume, but it's not super competitive. So you want to target that, okay? So you go into your website and you say, I'm going to create a post for this. Okay, so this is going to be a blog post. I'm going to go add new, and I'm going to start writing content for this particular keyword. So I'm going to call this page Calgary web design prices. And I'm going to start, creating content for that particular keyword. So, I'm not going to go through the whole content creation process. Obviously, you're going to have to think about this on your own. If you're stuck for ideas and you don't know what to talk about, you can always go into some of these first page results, open them up, see my websites here as well. So I'll show you that after. Open them up and get some ideas. What type of content are they writing about? What are they talking about in these articles? It'll give you some ideas. Obviously, don't copy and paste. That's not what we do when it comes to SEO, because you get penalized for that. But you could get some general ideas from these pages. What type of things are they covering? Maybe that you want to talk about from your own experience, or how much it costs, for example, for you to create that particular to create a website for a client. So once you determine that, you're going to start writing. And here's where it becomes very useful to use an SEO plugin. If you didn't have an SEO plugin, you would kind of write it here, and then you would publish it and kind of hope for the best. What an SEO plugin will help you do, so this is Rank Math. So if I click this option here, this will open up the Rank Math settings. And this is where having a plugin really helps. So for example, the first thing you do is you put in a focus keyword, Calgary web design prices, okay? And as soon as you do that, it's going to give you a score. And so what you're trying to do with this particular content, this could be a page, this could be a blog post, whatever. You're basically trying to improve the score to get to green. You're not always going to get 100%, but you want to get to green. You want to get to, I think it's 80% or over, right? So as soon as you start creating this content, it's going to warn you down below, and it's going to give you recommendations of what you should be doing in order to increase the score and improve your SEO results. One thing I want to mention here, when you're creating content, having 100% here doesn't guarantee that you're going to show up on this page, okay? So it gives you some best practices that you should follow when it comes to creating content. However, you're not going to, rank on Google automatically if you get 100% here. So that's really important to know. However, when you are creating content, you do want to hit as many as these indications here to improve your score, which will help you, get on that page. But again, depending on competitiveness, depending on how many people are targeting that particular keyword, it might be easier or harder to rank. These ones, this example I'm giving you is a fairly easy one to rank for. And you shouldn't have any issues ranking for something like this. For example, it's a low volume type of keyword. However, it's less competitive, and I figured that out as I was doing my keyword research. So I'm not going to, obviously, that would take way too long for me to write this out. So I actually have an example of this already created, and let me just look for it. I believe a lot of blog posts here. Let me just, so as you can see, I just created this recently, and I have it. It's on the first page. It's the third result. So I do want to improve this. So this is called Calgary Web Design Prices. Okay, so I'm gonna find this here on my site, in my staging site, and I'm going to edit it through just to show you what it looks like when it's finished. All right, so you can see, yeah, I hit 86 out of 100, which is great. So, I'm going to go through, this is a blog post. I'm going to go through, add a bunch of content, add my calls to action, have a, fairly good looking kind of blog post with pictures and media to make it a little bit more interactive, with some external links, with some internal links, and so forth, in order to, and I have a FAQ schema as well here on the bottom. So, having it structured this way, you can see that my keyword now, I'm hitting all of these things that are recommended as best practices in order to improve my score. So some of the things I could improve more, for example, it's short, it's considered short, 840 words. I'm assuming that some of these other content pieces on Google are longer, so it's giving me an indication I should probably beef this up a bit to improve this more. Some of the other things are my URL is considered long. That might be because I'm actually in the staging, so this is actually too long. I don't think I would have the same error on my live site. My URL structure here is shorter, and things like that. I'm not going to go through all of them. All of them are fairly self-explanatory. Yoast works the same way, but basically, once you finish this, you want to aim to get a green check mark here, meaning that you're doing well. Your content is considered good from an SEO practice. Another cool thing you can do here is you can set the social share kind of meta description and all that stuff in here. So you can set your meta description, your title, your permalink, URL, your meta description. Meta description doesn't impact your SEO, but it increases your click-through rate if it's done correctly. Somebody might be more likely to click my link versus somebody else's if my meta description is on point. Word of caution, Google does rewrite these. So they'll rewrite this and they'll rewrite the page title. And you want to, so don't be alarmed if you see that. So that's just normal. Google will rewrite it based on the content in your content, or the text in your content that might be more relevant to what people are searching for. So it could give you an indication of maybe your meta should be a little bit different. But again, this meta doesn't impact your SEO. The title and permalinks certainly do, but the meta doesn't. And you can see the social share and what it would look like if you shared it to social media like Facebook or Twitter. This is what it would look like if you share this. Some of the other options that are in here are more WordPress related in terms of creating a excerpt and creating a category and hooking up, for example, a featured image, which is a must. Some of those things are just best practices when you're creating content and pages. But in a nutshell, what you want to do is, use the SEO plugins in order to inform you as to, how well you're doing. one of the things that you want to keep in mind or keep track of, just having, like I said, again, having this high score here is not enough. You need to also look at the Google search engine's result page. So when you're creating content, what you want to do is you want to do a search on Google as well, see what other pages are ranking, see what the common questions are. So these things you probably want to include either in your content, or you want to create an FAQ schema. Remember I was talking about schemas in the previous modules. Schemas can help Google understand what your page is about a little bit better and answer some of those common questions. So I would try to hit, for example, in my article, I would try to hit some of these points here. I would also try to hit some of these related searches. For this one, there aren't any right now. However, for some, let's do Calgary web design instead, and I'll show you what I mean. So down here, related searches, you want to also hit some of these things in your content as well, to kind of give Google an indication that this is all related. And so this is what people are searching for. So these are all the related searches. So you want to include some of those points and some of these questions in your content as well. So that's another tip. Once you're done creating the content, you are going to also be able to check whether or not, there's another tool that I use as well that's free, that's really helpful to kind of give you other tips on how you can improve this. So if you go, the tool's called SEObility, and it's their free URL checker. I believe it's called an SEO checker. So you can search for on-page SEO checker, for example, and you can find one of my favorites is this. You can see I've visited it, SEObility, SEO check. And this is also useful. You can, like, once you publish your it has to be published, obviously, your content. This can also be a page. If you go analyze website, this is going to give you a lot of useful information as well on how well your your website's going to rank. So you can see here I have a 81%. I can definitely improve this by hitting some of these things that it's recommended. So for example, try to reduce my CSS files, JavaScript files, like more kind of like compressing the page. It's kind of tough, for some of these things, like response time is really quick, it loads quickly, my site is pretty fast, but it'll still, don't take this as gospel, obviously, try to hit some of these points as well, but it gives you some really good recommendations if you do forget to include these, and it'll go by important, like in red to yellow to whatever. And there's a bunch of different sections. So this is a really useful tool. It'll tell you, so for example, if you forgot to include a good title or meta description or whatever, or maybe it wasn't crawlable, the page, like these are some really important pieces here that, you could miss easily, and this is useful also even if you're not using WordPress, you can add these things manually, obviously, but WordPress kind of automates a lot of these things too. That's why I like using it for SEO. Yeah, so basically, go through all of these recommendations. There's quite a few, and then, take a look at how you can improve this even further, right? So for example, you can see that I have some images that don't have an alt attribute, so I want to fix that, and things like that, right? So just kind of go through all of these and try to improve it as much as possible to improve your score. One of the cool things here also to kind of recognize some of your important keywords. So you want to check, for example, Calgary web design, that's my, that's my primary keyword that I'm trying to hit for this. So this tells me that, it's picking it up. It has an 87% result for that particular keyword. It gives me an indication that I'm on the right track or that I did it correctly, because that's the one I'm targeting. That's what I want to show up. So I'm going to include this link in the course slides as well, just so you can take a look at it and use it for your projects. But you can do this for any blog post or website or web page. So I showed you, so this is a blog post that I have that's currently ranking. I can improve it further to improve my standing, like I'm number 3 right now on Google. So I could probably improve it to increase that a little bit higher as well, to be number 1. However, it's good enough for now, and I just wanted to show it as an example of how you would create content and how you would hit some of these important aspects here, and how a SEO plugin will help you hit some of these important aspects so that you can get a good ranking on the search engine results page. So you would, to summarize again, you would do your keyword research, you would find all of these relevant topics that are relevant to your website and your audience, and you would write content or tune your pages for those particular keywords in order to improve the ranking of those and to increase the traffic to your site. A lot of SEOs, this is kind of their bread and butter. This is their strategy. They'll just keep creating content that's relevant, for their websites or for their client websites. This is, I'd say the majority of SEOs, this is probably going to be their one of their primary strategies to drive traffic to a website. So you could see how this is fairly resource intensive work. You could also, if you're a freelancer or agency owner, you can outsource this to somebody else and kind of collaborate with them in order to increase traffic to a website. But this would be probably one of the services you would do in order to do the keyword research for clients and to generate the content or tune their existing pages for better SEO. And like I said, you could do this for pages too. This will show up. I was showing you one of my blog posts. You can see your pages as well. And the keyword that you're trying to hit is here. And even if you go into the page, this page is actually created with Elementor. A rank math will still pick up, based on your keyword, your content in Elementor as well. So you have to, in this case, because this is a page creating with Elementor, I would have to go into edit with Elementor and improve these points here in order to increase my score. Okay, so that's it for creating content. There's a lot more to it. Obviously, creating content could be, again, another course. If you're a web developer, you might not be interested in creating content. In fact, a lot of my blog posts, for example, on my website are created by somebody else. So I pay for content, so I do my own keyword research, or I have somebody now who does that for me as well. That works for me. But you could do your own keyword research, for example, because you'll know what your clients are searching for. And then you could outsource creating that content to somebody else, like getting somebody else to write the blog posts. That being said, honestly, the best blog posts that are ranking on my website are actually ones I've written. So it's kind of interesting, even though I hire professional writers, still my own content ranks the best because I know my audience the best, and I know what people that are looking for my services would be searching for. So there is something to that, and just keep that in mind. But yeah, very important concept when it comes to learning SEO and applying SEO techniques is content creation. Okay, so some of the key takeaways are creating the right content is really important, as we saw. So remember, in the previous module, we talked about keyword research. You want to find those keywords that are relevant, may not be as competitive when you're starting out. When you have a well-established site and you're an authority, you can go after those more competitive ones. But in the beginning, you want to target those ones that are less competitive, or maybe longer tail kind of keywords that you can rank for, and you want to create that content on your website in order to bring in traffic to your website. Learn how to use the tools to help you create content tuned for SEO. I showed you the SEO plugin Rank Math that really helps you go through the content creation process and hit some of those marks in order to increase your SEO score and SEO ability. which also gives you the gives you that same type of functionality, a kind of on-page score or on-page checker that you can use after you publish your page, that you can use either in addition to an SEO plugin or as a replacement. So if you weren't using WordPress and you're creating content using a JavaScript CMS or something like that, you could publish a blog post, you could run it against SEObility, and then see what you need to improve for that particular piece of content. So it's very, very useful. And last but not least, yeah, audit. Even if you think you've hit all the marks and you don't need to check it, I still urge you to check it and audit it, because sometimes you miss things. I do it all the time. Either I turn it off for indexing or something, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I have to turn that off. Allow indexing all of a sudden, for a new site or something like that, or I'll miss meta description or whatever. There's a lot of things that you can overlook. And so, yeah, it's just good practice. Do an audit after you publish and see, how that content ranks, how it scores for that particular keyword. Yeah, and that's it. It's fairly simple. It just takes a lot of work, content creation. So it's not rocket science, definitely. You can definitely create good content on your own. This is when you have to practice, and you'll get better at as you're practicing and doing this for your own site and for your clients. All righty, thank you. Hello and welcome back to SEO for Web Developers. In this topic, we're going to talk about promoting your content. So this particular topic builds on the previous two topics. We started with keyword research, and then we created a piece of content. We created a blog post, and now we're going to try to give you a few more tips when it comes to what's called off-page SEO, which is promoting your content so that you can get a higher ranking on Google. The main thing when it comes to promoting content, or the main reason you would do that, is one of the ranking factors that's kind of known that Google looks at is how many backlinks, what are called backlinks, that are pointing to your website or that particular page. Backlinks are any links that are available to that link back to your website or your piece of content, that give a hyperlink back to your website or content. So when you're starting with SEO, you'll discover quickly that backlinks are very important for ranking. And what I would suggest is, if you are looking at off-page strategies, promoting your content and acquiring backlinks for your website, focus on quality instead of quantity. So don't try to get the most backlinks you can for a website or a piece of content. Try to focus on quality over quantity. Quality backlinks are way more useful than just the number of quantity of backlinks that might even actually hurt your efforts. So if you remember, in the last module, we were looking at Calgary web design prices as a keyword, and I'm just going to jump into Ahrefs. This is a paid version. You're not going to have this in the free version, unfortunately, but you could do this. You could check what I'm about to show you also in Ubersuggest. They have some free functionality. Again, you'll be limited by the number of keywords you can look up per day, but it's still worthwhile looking at some cheaper or free options for doing this type of analysis. If you don't have a paid version of Ahrefs, for example. So I'm looking at, I looked up Calgary web design prices. The only reason I'm doing this is I wanted to see the keyword, what's called keyword difficulty for this particular keyword. Now, keep in mind, this is proprietary to Ahrefs, and take it with a grain of salt. It gives you an idea of how competitive a particular keyword is. It'll tell you how easy it is or hard it is to rank for. You can see this particular one. This is one of those kind of longer tail keywords that would be, that would fit the criteria for you to be able to target, because it has easy keyword difficulty, but it has a decent volume. So 80 searches a month in my area, which is great because, you know, even if you get a portion of those, that's a lot of clicks still and potential leads for you to look at. So one of the main things I'm looking for here is how difficult it is and this estimate of how many backlinks I need in order to get to the top 10 results of Google. And you can see I went through this already when I was showing you keyword research. You could see the results here. You could see my website here, number 3. So I came up here probably around November of last year, apparently. Yeah, I think that's me. Anyways, you can see the historical kind of ranking and stuff as well that I showed earlier. And one of the main things you want to look at here or consider is you could see that, you know, some of the higher ranking results usually have a higher kind of domain rating, or they have a higher URL rating, meaning, you know, so how many backlinks do they have linking to this resource in order to rank for that particular keyword. This isn't an exact science, by the way, because again, you know, you might have an example where, you know, you have a higher rating, let's say like here, you know, this URL maybe has a, you know, the highest rating, it has a lot of backlinks. However, yeah, this is actually not as exact as Calgary Web Design Prices. Calgary Web Design Prices, this is actually ranking for something else, and it has some mention probably about prices, so that's why it's not up here. This one's a little bit more exact. These are a little bit more exact when it comes to this keyword, and so they're ranking a little bit higher. Again, you know, nobody really knows how Google ranks these. That's part of their proprietary you know, information in terms of how the algorithms work in order to rank these sites. But most of the time, if you look at this, you'll be able to find out fairly quickly that either a website has a higher authority, or it's doing a better job describing this content, meeting the search intent for that particular keyword, or it's just better tuned, and therefore it's ranking higher. The main thing I want to show here is that the importance of backlinks. And this probably may not be a great example, just because you don't need a lot of backlinks here in order to get on the first page. But some other keywords that might be more competitive. So for example, Calgary Web Design in my case, let's search for that, and you'll see this is considered hard. And this one's going to have a totally different picture. You're going to see websites here that have a higher domain rating, have more backlinks than others that are showing up on the first page here. So you can see for me, for example, I'm all the way down here, and you know, my domain rating and UR are not as high as some of these other top results, right? So that's one of the components of why, for example, it takes a lot of time to kind of get up here and have you know, have a higher result. And you'll see here an estimate again. We estimate that you need backlinks from 38 websites to rank in the top 10 for this keyword, right? So it's it'll give you an idea of how much promotion you need to do for this content in order to rank on the first page in the first few results of Google. So what are some of the common content promotion strategies? There are quite a few, and it really depends on, you know, how competitive the search term search term is, and how hard do you need to promote it in order to get it to that first page. And this is called off-page SEO. This is basically promoting those particular pages, trying to acquire backlink, trying to get mentions for that particular content in order to rank it higher. So, you know, some popular methods of attaining that and promoting your content is by acquiring backlinks and sharing your content on social media, for example, so it gets seen and in turn gets, you know, natural backlinks as well. One of the main things that SEOs usually mention is like this acquiring natural backlinks. Google has a way of knowing if you're doing backlink acquisition, you know, as as a practice. Technically speaking, it's considered what's called black hat SEO. So it's considered not something that you should do by Google. If you read the Google kind of terms, they say, you know, you shouldn't try to go out there and try to acquire backlinks. However, the reality is everybody does that because it's really hard to acquire backlinks unless you're a really big brand or agency that gets links naturally. You know, you're going to have to go out of your way and acquire them. But that's, you know, considered, you know, the ones that are considered more high value are the ones that are natural sounding and natural looking to Google, and they have a way apparently of distinguishing, you know, natural ones from the ones you've tried to attain yourself. So, but again, you know, backlinking and creating backlinks, acquiring backlinks is probably one of the main issues, or main, not issues, but main things you need to do when it comes to off-page SEO and promoting your content so that you get those backlinks and you try to rank higher for your website. Some of these terms that I mentioned again are kind of specific to a keyword research tool, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. Basically, you'll learn more as you go through this process. Again, one thing to keep in mind that's going to save you a lot of effort and a lot of headaches is quality over quantity. If you take away anything from this module, that's one thing. So try to acquire, if you are acquiring backlinks, try to acquire ones that are high value from reputable websites, instead of just getting any backlink that you can pointing back to your website that's not related to your niche or not related to your business. That's actually going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. So yeah, so those are kind of the gotchas before you get started. In terms of acquiring backlinks or getting backlinks, this could be a full-time job. In fact, there are companies that only do this. So this is why, you know, acquiring backlinks is one of the hardest things. Acquiring good quality niche specific backlinks that are in your area, in your niche, is considered, you know, the best thing you can do in order to promote your website. However, it's also the hardest because you can imagine, you know, trying to get a backlink, for example, from WordPress.org. In my case, you know, for my particular niche, or try to get a backlink from Ahrefs, it would be pretty hard, right? You have to be fairly well established, and you have to be a known person in the industry in order to attain some of those good backlinks. So this is probably the hardest part, and hence why there are companies that, you know, offer these services and that specialize in this, actually, because it's not easy. Now, there is a way to do this, and I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways. Depending on what kind of website you're trying to rank, for example, if you're trying to rank a local business and you want to start creating backlinks for a brand new site that doesn't have any authority or whatever, local directories are good for that. They're not going to give you a lot of SEO juice. They're not going to give you increase your authority significantly, but it's easy to do. So what are local directory listings? Local directories are, for example, yellow pages or websites like that, where you can create a business listing for your particular business and where you could put in your URL to your website. That's considered a directory that would count as, you know, a backlink pointing back to your site. These are really good for, again, local businesses. So you want to create local directory listings for your website in order to get that backlink pointing back to say that you're established business and that you have some authority, right? And so that's a really easy way to do it. You can, you know, if you go on Google and you say local business directory, you'll be able to find many. And even if you type in your location, you'll be able to find, for example, here's a really good resource: 17 top free business listings in Canada. So you can go through all of these and create a website, create your website business listing in here in order to get that backlink. So that's a really easy way that you can do, you know, backlink acquisition. and get those directory links. They're not going to make a huge difference, but for a new site that doesn't have any backlinks, it's a great way to get started, especially for a local business. Competitor backlinks is a practice of, and you're going to need a premium tool. I think Ubersuggest actually might have this functionality. If you enter in a, let's look up my site just to see. If you enter in a website URL and you search, you can find competitor backlinks by putting in their URL and going through keywords, backlinks right here, backlinks overview. Okay, so I'm not sure, maybe this is no longer a, this might not be a, no, it's actually still here in the free version. So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to competitor backlinks acquisition method. You enter in there, you know, if you have a top ranking competitor in your niche, you enter in their URL. You can see all of the different backlinks that they have ordered by domain authority. The higher, the better. And you can start creating backlinks that they have. So for example, I have a Udemy course pointing back to my website. Maybe you can create a Udemy link as well, create a course and have a backlink pointing back to your website as well. And you just kind of go through the list and you start creating whatever ones they have. You try to create the same ones in order to get some of those backlinks as well. So that's another way. Again, very easy. It's just time consuming, of course, but easy way to start getting backlinks. Then we kind of move down the list to harder ones. Help a Reporter Out is a website where you can get featured in a different, like on another website or blog based on your expertise. So you go to, and I've included all of these links, by the way, in this slide deck, so you'll be able to see them after. You'll be able to hit these after. Help a Reporter Out. Let's look it up. Help a Reporter Out is a service that you can, a free service that you can sign up for free, and you can say, I'm a source. You sign up, you pick your area of expertise, and then you're going to get daily emails 3 times a day, actually, asking you to pitch your service or your expertise for a particular topic. So they're going to send you, we're looking for, you know, experts in WordPress, in the WordPress area or SEO area that can answer this question, like, are backlinks still important, for example? Then you go in and you provide your pitch, and then they might or might not feature you in a publication and give you a backlink in return as an authority for that particular topic. So that's another great way. It's a little bit hard, medium hard, because you're going to spend a lot of time. You're going to get 3 emails a day. There's going to be a ton of topics. You're going to go through all of those topics, find the one that's, you know, relevant, and then you can, you know, provide your pitch, but, you know, it may or may not get accepted. So I've had a lot of success with this strategy. I know people haven't generally. I think it's because it takes a lot of effort. And but it's a good sound strategy for you to get high authority backlinks from high authority websites and get featured in some of those websites. So it's a very good opportunity if you don't have that industry kind of authority already, so that you can get featured in these publications without using a service like this. Outreach and guest blog posting is similar. So you would look for opportunity on other people's blogs. So for example, you know, we saw Ubersuggest, maybe I'll go, you know, I'd go to Neil Patel and say, hey, I have this great idea for you improving this particular blog post. I'm going to give you a snippet, or would you like me to write you a blog post? I'm an industry expert for WordPress. I'm going to write you a really good WordPress blog post, and in return, you know, you get a backlink back to your website that's, you know, in your niche, and that's, you know, high authority, for example, for backlinking back to your website. So that's another great kind of way. It's, again, very time consuming, but, you know, those are high quality backlinks. And again, there are companies that just do this kind of work because it is very hard and time consuming, and And it's a good investment, if you're a business or a company, in order to like partner up with somebody like that can do this for you. In fact, if you're a web developer, or you have an agency and you're looking for somebody just to do this piece, you can sign up with somebody like through a white label type service, and then get some links created for your clients so that you can focus on other stuff and other improvements, because it's one of the main ranking methodologies that you can use for increasing the authority of your client sites. So it's, again, you're probably not going to be able to do this for every client on your own. It's going to be hard, so either you're going to have to hire somebody to do this, or you can partner up with another agency that specializes in this. So very worthwhile effort though. And then last but not least, connecting with industry peers. So for example, if you have a good and established, social media presence, for example, maybe you can connect with somebody and ask for a feature on their blog or on their website in order to get a backlink. For me, honestly, this number 5, I have a big following on Twitter. So for me, this is probably my go-to these days, and this is how I get featured in a lot of publications, because I'm well known in the industry. Therefore, I get those opportunities to get featured on other blogs and other websites. It takes a while to get there, obviously, but that's why it's hard. Not everybody can do it, but once you do have that authority established, you can get better quality websites linking back to you quite easily. And by sharing your blog posts or your pages on social media, you'll be able to acquire those backlinks naturally. Sometimes I discover that after I share an article with my audience, I get a natural backlink anyways from somebody saying, hey, check out this new great blog post to find out more about this and that, and they'll link back to my website and that resource. So those are my favorite ways. You'll have some links in the end of the slide deck here that can help you get started with these. But yes, content promotion is probably one of the hardest things that needs to be done when it comes to creating content and pitching that content and creating backlinks to that content, so it ranks. But it's very important, and it's one of the main backlinks, or is one of the main one of the main ranking criteria when it comes to ranking your content and ranking your website. So that being said, content promotion, key takeaways. Competitive content will have to be promoted. So you're not going to be able to just create a website. Remember what I said earlier, getting 100% on rank math doesn't mean that you're going to be ranking, because competitive content will have to be promoted. So you'll have to have those backlinks in order to show up on the first page. If you don't, it's going to be very hard for competitive content. For content that's very niche, that has no difficulty, for example, you're not going to need many backlinks. The example I gave earlier, Calgary Web Design Pricing, you saw that I don't have a lot of backlinks and I'm already number 3. Actually, the first result I don't think had any backlinks. So that tells you that, that's a search term that you can easily rank for without spending a lot of time on content promotion. But that's not going to be the case if the content or the topic is competitive. Learn some of our favorite promotion techniques that I showed earlier. You can use all of them. You can use a combination. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Quality over quantity. That's what you need to take away from this. And yeah, it's my last point, actually. My last takeaway is, again, creating content is all about quality, not quantity. So focus on quality and not quantity. One high quality backlink is better than 1,000 low quality backlinks. And in fact, those 1,000 low quality backlinks can actually hurt you and not help you. So that's it for content promotion. I hope I gave you some useful tips. This is one of probably the most common question I get when it comes to SEO. How do I promote my website? How do I promote my content? And hopefully with this, in this module, you got some tips on how to do that. All right, thanks. And we'll move on to the next topic. Thanks. Hello, and welcome back to SEO for Web Developers. In this section, we're going to talk about technical improvements for your website that can impact your SEO results. So what are technical improvements or technical errors that you need to be worried about? Technical errors are things like not having a fast and efficient website, or things like blocking robots from crawling your website that would prevent you from showing up on the Google or on the search engines in the first place. So there are a vast number actually of different technical issues that you can experience, or technical features that you can add to your website in order to increase your ranking. Some technical aspects are considered not to be of high importance, and others are considered to be of very high importance, like the one I mentioned. If your website's not crawlable, obviously, it's not going to show up on the search engines. So as I mentioned, there are quite a few of them. And actually, the best way to identify any potential issues and to fix them is by doing what's called a site audit. A site audit can be done in any of the SEO tools. In fact, if you sign up for a free version of Ahrefs or a free version of SEMrush, another popular SEO tool, you can do site audits for free for one URL or one website. And it's a good way to identify kind of table stakes type improvements that you can make to a website, or errors that are showing up that you can fix to improve your search engine results and ranking. Another tool that you can use to improve or to identify issues is Google Search Console. I showed this in one of the initial modules of the course, where issues and errors will actually show up in Google Search Console. Those are probably the ones you want to prioritize in terms of fixing. And once you fix all of those issues, you also want to look at an SEO tool that'll identify additional ones that you may want to fix. So this is very detailed. I could spend a ton of hours just going through these improvements. But being a web developer, you're going to be familiar with a lot of these anyway. So I'm just going to do a quick overview to show you what you want to look for and how you want to go through this process in order to improve a technical quality of the website. In fact, when we're working with clients, this is probably the first thing we will do. We will do a technical audit to see where they're at in terms of a technical health score when it comes to technical SEO. So when you sign up for a free account and you add your URL, it's going to do a site audit immediately, and it's going to show up here in your health score. So you can see if I click here, and again, you'll be able to do this for free. You don't need the premium version for doing site audits, but you'll see a score, and you'll actually even see like a historical score. And you want to be like above 80% again. For small site, it's totally achievable to get 100% on here as well. So aim for 100. It's not, it's not out of reach for smaller sites when you're starting out. For some client sites, if they have e-commerce or whatever, you might identify quite a few, and it'll take a while to fix, but it's worthwhile, because again, the search engine crawlers are experiencing these issues as well, and may penalize your site from showing up on Google. So what you want to look for, so as soon as you do this site crawl of your website or site audit, it's going to identify a bunch of issues or errors, warnings, and notices here. And all you want to do is you want to go through these errors and figure out why they're occurring. If you have for example, like a broken page, so let's say you have in your sitemap, you have like a web page or a blog post that no longer exists, and a 404 error is being thrown, you'll see that in Google Search Console. You also see it in here. And so what you would do is you would click on that error, and then you would see a little bit more information about that error. This is a great way to learn a little bit more about technical SEO. Technical SEO can actually be a specialty that like a subspecialty that you specialize in, this is considered an on-page SEO practice. And you want to, this is one of the like easy things for you to learn and implement. And, you know, especially for web developers that kind of are familiar with a lot of these concepts. And just to show you one example, so it looks like I have an error here for page from sitemap timed out. As soon as you know, any of these, if you click on, you'll see an additional option, and it'll actually also describe what the issue is. So the URL and the sitemap file did not get the response from the server on time. So it sounds like maybe I have a broken page or something, or maybe my sitemap didn't update in time when I deleted this page or whatever. If I click on more information, it's going to actually show me exactly the URL, what the URL is, what the issue is, and then it's going to give me some more information on, you know, how to solve it as well if I'm not sure. So if you're not sure how to solve these issues, if you click on one of these things, sorry, I have my Zoom thing here. I'm just gonna move this. It'll give you an overview. It'll give you all of the information you need, and then it'll also let's click on it and see. So it is showing up. So there's something going on, you know, with the sitemap. You know, so I could probably I can probably rerun this and this would probably go away. It was probably a glitch or something, but yeah, you could get some additional information, and you want to fix as many issues as possible in order to get to that 100% score. So in Ahrefs, you know, when you do this, you identify all the issues, you go in your website, you fix them, and then when you're done, you go back into the crawler and you run another crawl, and it'll give you a new score. So that's you know, just one example of how you can improve the technical quality of your website. So again, this is very table stakes type stuff. You can do this with the help of any SEO premium tool. They all give you this ability for free. So it's something you want to explore and kind of learn a little bit more about. There's a vast number of different things that can show up in here that you might want to fix. For example, you know, missing alt text in your images, or your page title being too long, or you know, a page showing up as no index, but you know, is still crawlable, and you know, thousands of different variations of this. So you know, as you go through this is actually a really good way to learn more about technical SEO as you're going through these things and fixing them. Some might be obvious, some might be not as obvious. For example, I'm not familiar with this page from sitemap timed out issue, for example. I haven't seen this one before. So, you know, for something like that, I would have to learn a little bit more about it and figure out how to fix it. Ahrefs has great documentation as well, so it gives you some information here on how to fix this particular issue, or you can click on learn more, and you know, it'll usually have a really good blog article about, you know, what causes this, why it's important, and how to fix it, which is great. So they have a really good learning database as well for all of these issues, actually. So it helps you understand why they're showing up and how to fix them. So that's one concept of technical SEO that really helped me learn the concepts behind technical SEO and how to fix them, and how to fix issues, and what to do and what not to do. When you first start this, you're going to have a bunch of errors probably showing up, like missing meta descriptions, missing or maybe too long page titles, or whatever, you know, and you're going to learn best practices through working through some of these issues. So this is a really good way to learn that. Keep in mind that you might see some redundancy. For example, if you remember when we were going through the SEO tool, RankMath, it actually gave us a lot of these warnings too when we were developing content. If you're not using WordPress, you're using another framework, you know, you might not have this benefit of having an SEO tool, and therefore something like this would really help you, because it would crawl the entire site and tell you all of the things that you might need to fix in order to improve the technical score of your website. Again, just like the SEO tools, you know, this 100% excellent score doesn't mean that you're going to rank on Google all of a sudden. That depends on a number of different factors. Technical help is just another piece that, it contributes, but it's not 100% critical for you to rank on Google, actually. Another thing you want to look at, and this is covered a little bit more in my WordPress course, but website performance. So you want to have a website that loads quickly on both desktop and mobile. This is actually a critical piece as well. And in fact, Google has mentioned recently that it's becoming a more important ranking factor, having a good load time on mobile specifically. So that's another thing that I would spend time investigating and trying to fix. Try to do a speed audit on your website using GT metrics, or even better, page speed insights, and see if you have some issues from a performance perspective that you can fix in order to improve the ranking of your website. One of the things that's a must, and I'm actually going to include a resource in the slide deck on how to improve performance of WordPress sites specifically, but they apply to other websites as well, other frameworks. One of the things you need is fast and efficient hosting. For my hosting, I use Cloudways. It's one of the best kind of performance per dollar kind of ratio hosting environments. You get your own server, you get really good performance. It's very intuitive, and is a great host for hosting websites that you want to focus on SEO that have really good performance and that are going to perform well on mobile and desktop, which is a key ranking factor. If you want to try Cloudways out, I'm going to include an affiliate link as well. It's going to give you, I believe, 20% off. That's also going to be in a slide deck, and you can look for that if you want to try them out and improve the performance of your website. That's probably one of the main, honestly, one of the main things that helps with performance of websites is having a good quality hosting provider. So that's a must. In terms of fixing issues, that's one thing. Obviously, you don't want to have any issues when you're working on websites. However, another thing that you want to do is introduce some technical enhancements as well to your website in order to help Google understand it better and to help you rank those particular pages a bit higher as well. For example, one of those things are the Google schemas. Sorry, not Google schemas, but schemas. Schemas are JavaScript descriptions of what your website is about, and they'll help you in some cases land what are called rich snippets. I went through that already. And they help Google and other search engines understand what your website is about. And they're a great little addition or feature that you can add for your website. For example, I already showed you, in the schema checker here, my website. And when I run this, it'll say, it'll inform the search engines this is actually a local business entry, and these are all of this is my information about the business. It's going to say this is a web page, and it's going to give some additional information about the web page itself, and FAQs as well, which is another really cool thing. This is what drives, in some cases, for example, if you look for a search term and then you have like these common questions, where are they? These ones people also ask. For example, you're more likely to pick up one of these. So even if you're not on the first page, maybe you answer this correctly using a fact schema or something, and therefore, you can land one of these even if you're not on the first page. An FAQ schema, for example, helps you with that. It doesn't guarantee results again, but it helps you understand, help search engines understand that this is a question and this is an answer to that question. See, it's all structured in JavaScript, and you can see the code here. It's all in LD-JSON, a different schema, and it says question answer, and this is actually how it's rendered. and understood. That's a great technical feature that you can add to your website, for example, to improve the some of your results. So what would that look like? There are many ways to do that. You could do this manually. You can look through the documentation on the schema.org website and look at different schemas that are available and actually generate them yourself. So for example, let's say web page, I want to add a web page schema to my website. I can see all of the different requirements of the things that I need to include in here, and then I can add it as JavaScript code to my website in order to perhaps enhance my website in a way. So you can create a lot of schemas, and here has examples of how you would generate this, and you could do this manually. In WordPress, and one of the things I enjoy about WordPress actually and like is that you can do this without adding any of these snippets. You can do this automatically. And for example, I'm just gonna take a look at this. So for example, I can add an accordion item in Elementor, and I could say generate a fact schema right here just by clicking this yes, and then all these questions and answers are going to be generated as schemas that I showed earlier. So that's a great little enhancement that you can do in order to help search engine understand what your website is about a little bit easier. So that's learn schemas. Schemas are a great way to enhance the technical quality of your website. There are a vast number of them, and if you can implement them and automate some of them, that's going to be a great addition to your website. So those are kind of the basics in terms of technical SEO. Make sure that you have good performance. Make sure that you don't have technical errors, which will show up in either Google Search Console or a tool like Ahrefs. And then use the tools in order to apply and fix some of these technical SEO issues on your website that will help you rank your website. When I started offering SEO services, actually, I focused on this mostly, and clients are very happy to pay for this service as well. This is highly technical, and in fact, even SEOs that are not as technical will hire other web developers to help them with this. So if you know how to fix these things, and if you know how to avoid these, you're going to become way more valuable to your clients and to your employer, because they're not going to have to go and hire somebody else to go through and then fix all of your errors that you've implemented by making some of these mistakes. So it's a very useful thing that you can learn. This is considered an on-page SEO technique, and something that's very valuable, and that you can spend a lot of time kind of perfecting, learning, and implementing. So some of the key takeaways from this module: technical optimization and tracking. So fix technical and performance issues as soon as they surface up. So you can identify them. You could do a site audit, scheduled site audit. You'll also get issues in Google Search Console through your email when you add your site. So if you get those, try to fix them as soon as possible, because they might be impacting your SEO results. Learn and implement schemas. Again, they're optional, but they're a great little functionality and feature that you can add to any website to improve the general SEO results of your website. And then track your results. So track your results when it comes to not only technical results in terms of like technical errors and enhancements, but also track results of your content. And again, this is also something that you can see in Google Search Console. If you don't have a paid tool, you can take a look at which content and which pages are not performing well. Maybe they're not indexed. Maybe you can request them to be indexed, for example, or if they're not getting any traffic, or they're not in your niche, they're not like related to what your website is about or whatever, consider improving them or pruning them or deleting them entirely or whatever, or combining articles or whatever, because even though we want to have a lot of good content when it comes to our website, Some of them may cause technical issues and crawlability issues, or they might be diluting what your website is about. So you want to kind of keep track of that and delete any that maybe aren't making a difference, or maybe might even hurting you if they're causing issues. So those are things on technical optimization. Again, another very kind of great topic that you can sink your teeth into and learn more about and provide a lot of value to your clients, and also implement on your own website to increase the SEO results of your website. So that's it for technical optimization. Welcome back to SEO for Web Developers. In this module, we're going to talk about pricing your services. So this is probably why, one of the main reasons why you bought this course. Learning this skill is very lucrative. I would say that, I already mentioned, it's one of our fastest growing services that we offer as a web development agency. And even if you don't have an agency, it'll help you grow your income and also be more valuable, if anything, not only to your clients, but even if you're working as a web developer at a company. As I mentioned, it will help you be more valuable to your team, and it will help you grow as a developer, because you'll know, sound practices when it comes to technical web development that will help you develop better websites. They're going to rank better on Google and other search engines. In terms of pricing your services, it depends really on, where you're at. If you're a solo entrepreneur or a solo freelancer, this is obviously going to look a little bit different than if you're working for a company or if you're looking for a job. Again, SEO is very vast. You can subspecialize in different areas. Some areas are a little bit more sought after than others, but I would say any of these areas, if you specialize in, you can significantly increase your rates, even as a solo developer, and if you have an agency, even more so if you start offering those services. At the end of the day, most clients that know a little bit more and want to utilize their website to its maximum capability will be interested in SEO services, because at the end of the day, they understand that a website is a vehicle to attract more clients and to get more leads. So, you're already, by offering those services, working with higher tier clients that understand what it takes to have a successful website that's actually generating leads and generating income for them. So there are many ways to charge for SEO services. You can do an hourly thing if you want, so if you learn technical SEO, for example, you could charge for that by per hour, for example, to fix technical issues, or to create content that'll rank for them. You can do it by hour. I don't recommend doing that. I do recommend pricing on a project basis or on a monthly basis, not hourly. And the reason for that is, you're always going to be at odds with your clients. So if you're charging per hour, they want to minimize your hours, obviously, so they pay less, and you want to maximize your hours because you get paid more, obviously. So try to price on a monthly basis or on a project basis. That's usually ideal. So some ways that you can grow to 5 figures a month. You can offer technical audits and fix technical issues. So you could add that as your service offering to, let's say, do a technical audit and fix a bunch of these issues for clients that'll help their website do better on search engines. So you could charge, anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 or more, depending on how bad of a shape their website is in. You can offer that as a service and grow your income by getting a few clients every month in order to do that. That's going to be harder probably, and it's probably going to be, harder to hit that 5-figure a month kind of, sales figure, but it is a way, and you can do it, especially if you start really specializing. There are technical SEO experts that really revamp the entire structure of websites and reorganize everything. Those are big projects, usually done for bigger clients. And those clients have bigger budgets, and you can do really well implementing and fixing technical issues and implementing technical hierarchy and things to clients' websites in order to reach that 5 figures a month sales figure. One popular thing that we do actually is offer SEO packages for new website implementations. So this alone can help you grow from a simple, 4-digit, 4-figure project, $2,000 or $3,000 website, all of a sudden becomes a $10,000 website just by, or more, just by introducing this SEO package that people are interested in. Keep in mind, this is going to be more work for you. So it's not like you're just magically going to start charging more for the same thing. You are going to have to do more work. So what we do, for example, is we offer this as an add-on when we're implementing new projects, where we say, we're not only going to implement the website for you, we're also going to we're going to do keyword research. We're going to tune all of your pages for particular keywords. We're going to set up the structure in a way that, is SEO friendly and it's going to yield results. And in fact, we've done projects just like this where we just did redesigns. We didn't add in new content or anything that maybe already had good content. We restructured, redesigned, and it re-implemented a website. And it automatically improved their SEO results. We have a few case studies on our website describing that process. So, that's a lucrative way. That's a way to increase, your sales by not offering anything significantly new, but expanding your current service offering to include, for new website implementations, to include adding as well or implementing SEO features as you're launching new sites. And this will kind of bring in that higher tier clientele sort of area where you can charge more and easily grow to that 5 figures a month, because it's not going to take too many clients to reach that figure. And last but not least, and this is probably the most lucrative, but you also need to partner up with other specialists or grow to kind of an agency model where you have more people dedicated to this, but offering SEO monthly packages. Honestly, this is our fastest growing area for our business. And, these packages usually start anywhere from $2,000 and go up from there. And, you don't need too many clients in order to hit that 5-figure mark when you're offering these packages. These typically include a series of things in terms of, enhancing websites, adding content, doing keyword research, promoting content, acquiring backlinks, all kinds of stuff. And really the difference, the process is the same. The difference is, as you move up to the higher tier plans, you just get more of the same thing or similar things, or maybe some additional services. But for the most part, the process is the same. It just depends on where they're at and where they want to go, and it depends on the level of service that they want. So these are some of the ways that you can increase your rates and grow your revenue by knowing SEO. So all of these things that I've covered in the course basically will prepare you for introducing these services as your service offering, and it'll help you increase your value to your client or to your employer. All right, so in terms of key takeaways when it comes to pricing, if you're struggling to get, I gave you some examples, but if you're struggling, for example, this is regional as well. So I'm in Canada, this is what people would expect to pay in North America for these types of services. If you are in a different part of the world and you want to do some research, check out your competitors. A lot of them will put up pricing on their website in terms of how much they charge for these things. So you can, get an idea of how much you can charge for these services in your area. So it is dependent on where you are and how much clients are willing to pay, right? And again, price on a monthly or project basis, not on an hourly, if you can get away with it. In some cases, if you're starting out, you're gonna have probably an easier time pricing hourly to start. But once you kind of get more established and you get better at doing this work, move to a monthly or a project basis instead. SEO is huge. Again, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to know everything. Partner up with people and offer these services, especially if you're doing like monthly plans. You're gonna have to partner up with content writers. You're gonna have to partner up with people doing backlinks and promotion and stuff like that. You're not gonna be able to do everything. You're not gonna be able to know everything, obviously, just because it's a vast field. Pick something you want to specialize in, maybe that you're passionate about. You can also do very well. I know lots of people that do very well that specialize in one of these areas and that have that either do technical SEO or off-page SEO or even just content creation or whatever. Specialize in something and hone in on that. And if you want to grow to like more of an agency model, you're gonna either have to hire people or you're gonna have to make relationships with other providers and kind of work on them on a white label type freelancing approach as well. That also works. And again, the approach for offering these services and pricing these services is the same, but client needs will be different. So what I mean by that, for example, we always do a technical SEO audit first, and we always fix technical issues first. Some clients may already be at 95%. They might be great from a technical perspective. Some might be at 8%. So, in those cases, really the approach is the same. However, it's going to take them probably longer and their needs are going to be different if they have a low technical score, because we have to fix those things first before we start any of the other enhancements to a website. You don't want to start doing enhancements to a site that has a low technical score because they're not going to be as effective, right? You want to fix the technical issues first and then add new features and enhancements to a website in order to improve its ranking. But yeah, the approach is the same. These things that I've covered in the course are gonna get you most of the way there. There are some more, complicated and more niche kind of topics that people specialize in when it comes to SEO. But this gives you a really good foundation and a basis of the things that you need to learn in order to start offering SEO services or to improve the SEO of your own website. So those are the key takeaways when it comes to pricing and increasing your revenue by offering SEO services.